Welcome to your Houston Rewind for August 21st through the 25th. I'm KHOU 11 digital anchor Brandy Smith. We know catching up on the news can be overwhelming, especially in a city like Houston where it never seems to stop. So every weekend, we take this opportunity to fill you in on some of the stories you may have missed. Let's rewind. A wind-fueled wildfire threatened several homes and buildings in Montgomery County on Monday. Maria Aguilera met one cut-and-shoot homeowner grateful for the work of fire crews.
It's a miracle that somebody was here.
Stacy Aiden's home untouched by flames as this fire burned through 60 acres. No one was home except her brother-in-law, a Houston fireman who flagged down crews as the fire started.
Got them to pull in and go put the fire trucks around the barn and said, save the house.
And we've been watching this area in particular for a few days because it's one of the driest in our region.
Montgomery County Fire Marshal Jimmy Williams says rushing resources in quickly made the difference.
They pushed it around the houses, protected them, and then they stop it at 1484, which is the farm to market road. If it crosses there, it's going to go into subdivisions.
Williams reminding people of burn bans in effect, saying fire crews need everyone's help to not do anything that may cause a spark, which is how this fire started, by someone welding. As for Aiden, this fire hit too close to home.
When you see the black all around and then just our house is circled around, it's a miracle.
2 people were hurt when they crashed into a fire truck because the smoke was so thick. They only had minor injuries, but it's just another danger associated with these fires. Houston ISD students go back to school on Monday, and some parents are worried about the changes HISD made to its autism support team. Jason Miles spoke with a mom of twins with autism who says her family is considering moving out of the district.
No, that's Mommy.
4-year-old twins Natalie and Sydney
very close.
share most characteristics, including autism.
One is moderate, one is severe.
Mother Carol Lopez says the latter is especially challenging.
Severe means that they have a lot of behavioral issues. Sometimes they're nonverbal.
The family lives right next door to Shadowbriar Elementary, where the twins get specialized attention. But now there's news of a shakeup.
And we're not happy.
Multiple sources say Houston ISD is dismantling its autism support team within the special education department, and that contract employees who, among other things, help train teachers would lose their job.
Have they thought out the whole process? Do they know how it's going to affect the special needs children?
Lopez is active in the group Autism Moms of Houston, while the statewide Autism Society of Texas is also reacting.
People are always going to think the worst.
Executive Director Jackie Benestante says kids with autism can fall through the cracks without adequate intervention.
So there's multiple things going on, and when you don't have the diagnosis and you don't have the right support, it just exacerbates all of the problems for everybody.
Without knowing exactly what lies ahead means Lopez is considering a shift for the sake of her twins.
We are considering moving from this district because of that.
When we reached out to the district for comment, it sent us this statement. With more than 1,800 campus and central office employees dedicated to special education, support for students goes beyond this restructuring. The statement goes on. In addition, the district is currently participating in the Support for Students with Autism grant, which provides SLC or structured learning classroom teachers with opportunities to visit model SLC classrooms throughout the district. You can read that whole statement on khou.com/education. If you haven't yet, please take our KHOU 11 Back to School survey. We're getting answers to the questions you're asking in it. All you have to do is text the word school to 713-526-1111 and we'll send you the link. It only takes a few minutes to fill out. He was front and center in the Netflix documentary, The Texas Killing Fields. An FBI agent has investigated some of the Houston area's most infamous murders, and he retired this week. Before he did, he sat down with Grace White to talk about the cases he helped solve and the one that still haunts him to this day.
Hi, Richard. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
You may not know his name, but you know his cases.
How many years have you spent in law enforcement?
Right at 31 years.
More than 20 of those years, Richard Renaissance spent at the FBI. But what's unique about him, many of Renaissance's cases he knew from his time as a League City police officer. It was April of 1997 when Laura Smither went missing. Jessica Kane disappeared the same year.
I was assigned to a narcotics task force here in the county, and we stopped all narcotic stuff and became searchers for both cases.
Laura's body was found, Jessica's wasn't, until 2016, when suspected serial killer William Reese led Renison to a field near Hobby Airport.
We didn't know if he was lying to us and just trying to get out of prison, but I think all of us involved were pretty sure he was telling the truth.
Okay, here we go.
He was, and authorities found Jessica's body. Reese was later convicted for 3 murders in Texas and 1 in Oklahoma.
What case still keeps you up at night?
The killing fields in League City. I speak with Tim Miller regularly. For a man who's done so much good for so many people, it would sure be nice to get him some closure, as well as the other 3 victims.
Tim Miller, the founder of Texas EquiSearch, had a daughter, Laura, who was one of the girls murdered. The others, Heidi Fye and 2 girls who were later identified using forensic genealogy.
When we sat down with League City to start working, it was 45 minutes, and we had Donna Gonsolin ID'd. It took 1 hour to get Audrey Lee Cook identified.
But of all his cases, by far the toughest emotionally was the shooting on May 18, 2018 at Santa Fe High School.
Where were you when you got the call?
5 years later, it's still hard to find the words. Renison was the FBI's lead agent on the investigation.
I went over to the high school and I was there about 7:50, and he was in custody at 8 o'clock. Definitely the worst day of my career.
But what's gotten him through, the relationships he's built.
100% will remain friends with everybody.
That includes not just fellow investigators, but victims and their families Renison still talks to. All people who have shaped him and maybe helped him prepare for retirement in their own way.
I'm a lot more patient now than I was. I would used to, okay, let's get it done. It's got to be done. It's got to be done right now. And I think I've learned the subtle art of patience.
Renison told Grace the FBI has a whole team of people working on the Killing Fields case, so when he left, other people were ready to step up. Early this coming week, Texas senators will decide whether to dismiss articles of impeachment filed against suspended Attorney General Ken Paxton. Adam Bennett broke down the case.
As media attention shifts from Ken Paxton's criminal case earlier this month, there's a key deadline next week on that trial in the Texas Senate.
The biggest blockbuster will be the pretrial motions, because they're the ones that effectively could dismiss the entirety of the case against the suspended Attorney General.
UH political science professor Brandon Rottinghouse says it all comes down to what's called the prior term doctrine of the Texas Constitution.
And this doctrine effectively says that if the person was elected and re-elected, then the voters have essentially absolved them from any kind of issue that might come up in terms of impeachment. So constitutionally, they're not allowed to impeach that person.
Last week, the Texas Senate published nearly 4,000 pages of exhibits submitted by House impeachment managers. They lay out how Paxton allegedly abused his office to help campaign donor and Austin real estate developer Nate Paul.
There's a ton of detail here, thousands of pages of information. Most of this was not known to the public before last week. So the House impeachment managers are going to make the case that these are things that the public didn't know, and therefore they should continue to include those as articles of impeachment.
He says case law is also inconsistent on which election the doctrine refers to. Paxton has been elected to the office 3 times, starting in 2014.
According to impeachment rules, senators would vote on dismissal before opening statements start September 5th. Tuesday afternoon, the Senate released details on how the public can watch the proceedings in person. And you can find those details in this article on KHOU.com. Caught on camera, a dramatic rescue that happened just in time. The Houston SPCA, along with first responders, found a dog stranded on a balcony in this extreme heat. Marcelino Benito got an update on how the pup is doing.
That dog narrowly made it. He's recovering here at the SPCA tonight. Investigators tell us that dog's owner was out of town when he left the dog on the balcony without any water.
Yeah, it was past cutting it close. I mean, it was literally, they were on the other side and came back.
Chief Animal Cruelty Investigator Jay Chase says the dog had been on that balcony for several hours. Neighbors called for help. The dog was unresponsive.
When they actually got onto the patio, it appeared that the dog had expired. But as they were investigating, the dog actually lifted its head and gasped, and they realized it was still alive.
The Ponderosa Fire Department, along with Precinct 1 constables and the SPCA, worked together to get to the second floor and get the dog down. They rushed him to an ER clinic.
The dog is already improving and is on its way to health.
With extreme heat set to continue this week, the SPCA expects their call load to continue spiking, and it's already stretching their staff thin.
There's so many of these calls, and they are so exigent that regardless of where in the city we are, we drop what we're doing and go to these.
Animal cruelty charges are still possible. An investigation is ongoing, I'm told. Meanwhile, in 10 days, a judge will decide who will ultimately keep this dog. If you'd like to report animal cruelty, we have information on how you can do so on KHOU.com.
A college education has never been more expensive, making the road to higher education even tougher for high-achieving students from low-income families. Dave Freilich spotlighted a local nonprofit that makes sure those students don't just attend college, but that they thrive and graduate.
So we're going to do 2 truths and a lie.
The school year has just begun for these seniors at Klein Forest High School, but these students are already looking ahead, 12 months down the road when they'll be scattered across the country at some of the top universities in the United States. That's the focus of Emerge, a local program started in 2010 to help make sure students from traditionally underserved communities in our area still get their shot.
When I look at all the students that we work with, they're all full of potential. And truly the difference between the ones that are able to realize that potential versus not is just that support that they're able to get. And that's, where Emerge comes in.
Aspiring architecture major Miguel Moreno has been plugged into Emerge since his sophomore year.
My parents, no matter how hard they work, the financial aspect is just not there. And we always talked about it. They always told me to work hard to try to get to college for free because they just can't pay for it. It's just not realistically something that they can work more hours or get another job and pay for it.
The same is true for Martha Cañas, who wants to go to Rice and major in linguistics.
None of my parents went to college. I'm the oldest in my family, so they're kind of like, everything falls on me. Literally everything falls on me. My parents don't know what they're doing in regards to that because it's brand new territory for them, just like it's for me.
As senior year begins and the focus on scholarship deadlines intensifies, Raul Channer says Emerge is also making a commitment to help these students navigate life in college, in and out of the classroom, an investment that goes far beyond these high school meetings.
What's the true benefit if they're never able to get to that finish line of, actually, like I said, graduating, start to realize their dreams, whether that to be, a nurse, a doctor, or another productive member of society. I just feel like we have that responsibility to see them all the way through.
These students getting help from Emerge say the program that's helping them get into and succeed at college has also made them realize how important it will be for them to help others in their lives going forward.
Make me not just repay my parents, but also help those that I know are also financially struggling. Because now that I have an insight onto this process that it is to getting into college, I can give a tidbit of information that I know to them, and hopefully they can get in as well.
Whether it be their younger siblings, friends, whoever, they've already even started stepping into those roles now, and they haven't even made their way through. So I definitely see them, taking that step to, make this whole world just a better place for everyone.
Did you know we feature Texans helping Texans every month? There are so many incredible examples of our neighbors stepping up. So if you want to check all of them out, go to KHOU.com/Texans Helping Texans. A Houston mother who lost her daughter to fungal meningitis has a message and a warning to anyone hoping to save money by traveling across the border for surgery. She shared her heartbreaking story with Anayeli Ruiz.
She was my baby. She was my baby.
With a broken heart, Nora Whitehead is sharing her pain. The loss of her 31-year-old daughter, Cheyenne Medrano.
It was hard to believe that there was no hope.
She says Cheyenne had been in an abusive relationship.
She just thought that she was overweight, and she thought that she wasn't beautiful anymore.
She wanted to change her image through plastic surgery.
She went to Matamoros, Mexico, and she went for surgery for liposuction and a BBL.
Cheyenne's surgery took place in March at Clinica K3. A friend drove her to Matamoros. She went without letting her family know.
For $3,000, my daughter paid with her life.
Her death from fungal meningitis tied to an outbreak at a pair of clinics in the Mexican border city near Brownsville. The CDC putting out a warning late this summer saying anyone who received the epidural anesthesia at these facilities is at risk.
When a fungus is causing that inflammation or an infection in the lining of the brain, we call it a fungal meningitis.
The problem, doctors say, the fungus is not easy to detect and it needs to be caught early with treatment over a long period of time.
Those are extremely hard to treat.
For Cheyenne, the symptoms appeared quickly. Headaches, sensitivity to light. Her mother says her daughter deteriorated fast.
She went into cardiac arrest on a Tuesday, and she wound up on life support from there on out, and she never came back out from it.
2 months later, Cheyenne was gone.
My daughter suffered.
Cheyenne leaves behind friends and family, including her own daughter, just 8 years old.
She thought her mom was going to go to heaven and come back.
Cheyenne's mother now left with so much ache and anguish. She hopes by sharing her suffering, she can help prevent other women from going to a clinic across the border.
Your life is really at risk and you're really paying with your life.
And help other families avoid the same pain.
Please don't do it. It's not worth it.
Anayeli Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
Doctors warn the symptoms of fungal meningitis don't always show up right away, and they suspect more than 100 people contracted it at those clinics. These people could suddenly come down with the illness long after exposure. So the best course of action, if you think you've been exposed, is to get tested. It's just one of the devastating pitfalls of medical tourism when people head south for surgery hoping to save. As of September 1st, Harris County will be forced to change how it runs elections. The Texas Supreme Court denied the county's request to temporarily block a new state law that eliminates the county elections administrator position. Adam Bennett explained concerns this could disrupt the November election.
Is it possible to work more smoothly with our state government?
Less than 2 months before voters in the state's largest city choose their newest mayor, there's a major shakeup in the way Houston's main county runs elections after the Texas Supreme Court ruled a contested new law can take effect September 1st.
I'm incredibly disappointed.
Harris County Attorney Christian Menefee sued the state over Senate Bill 1750. It eliminates the elections administrator position in Texas counties with more than 3.5 million people. Only Harris County comes close to qualifying. Menefee says the state constitution doesn't allow laws to target only one city or county.
This is exactly what Republican legislators wanted to do. They wanted to put us in this tough situation.
Republican Senator Paul Bettencourt said he filed the bills after problems during Harris County elections under 2 different election administrators. Those included malfunctioning voting machines and paper ballot shortages. He said, quote, "This bill has always been about performance, not politics." Tax assessor collector Ann Harris Bennett is expected to handle voting registration, while County Clerk Tanisha Hudspeth is expected to handle election administration. Both have prior experience with those duties, and both released statements vowing to work toward a smooth experience for voters. I was told both were unavailable for interviews today and focusing on the transition.
The county's already been operating on parallel tracks. We had both the lawsuit and transition meetings going on behind the scenes.
Elections Administrator Clifford Tatum said in a statement he'll keep following the county attorney's legal advice and preparing for November's election until told to do otherwise. Next Tuesday, Commissioners Court will discuss the transition and vote to formalize it. The next hearing in the legal fight over the new law is November 28th. The high school football season kicked off this week. Jason Bristol laid out what's ahead.
Here's a look at the 2023 high school football season by the numbers. Starting with 13. The preseason national ranking for North Shore by the site Max Preps. The Mustangs from Galena Park ISD, perennial power, the area's highest rated school. Katy is also ranked by some experts as well. The next number, 3. 3 of the country's top 125 prospects are on the same team. Oak Ridge from Conroe ISD, led by linebacker Justin Williams, a Georgia commit who's a 5-star recruit. And now, 2. The uniform worn by senior quarterback DJ Lagway of Willis, Montgomery County, arguably the region's top offensive prospect. He's committed to Florida. And finally, 60, as in 60 minutes, the time many schools are pushing back their kickoffs on opening night from 7 to 8 because of this brutal heat. And that's a look at the 2023 season by the numbers.
We'll help you keep tabs on your favorite high school team all season. Just go to khou.com/sports to check out scores and schedules. City of Houston water restrictions in effect Sunday mean changes to when you can water your lawn. Troy Kless got tips from a local water management company that will save you water and money.
Right now, the goal is to get the word out on water restrictions.
What we will find in this case is that we will find not only as the City of Houston will be out and seeing if people are complying, but neighbors will also be assisting in this process.
Mayor Sylvester Turner says he's not worried about enforcement as long as people know the rules. You can water between the hours of 7 p.m. and 5 a.m. Sundays and Thursdays are for even-numbered street addresses. Saturdays and Wednesdays for odd-numbered addresses. Tuesdays and Fridays are for commercial customers. Jeff O'Donnell at WaterLogic says to prepare, make sure your sprinkler system is working.
If it's got broken lines, broken heads, you're not putting out water where it needs to be. It's going to be flooding one area and running off and wasting water.
Use this controller in your home.
You would want to turn it to allow watering only on the days of the week that you are allowed to water for your address.
The kind of system you have may determine how long it needs to run. The water restrictions will go on as long as needed.
It's a shared sacrifice for a limited period of time as we go through a crisis which all of us can help to manage. If we do that, we're going to be fine.
If you're looking for even more detail about the restrictions, just find this article on KHOU.com. Our extended run of hot, dry weather is taking a toll on one Texas industry. The drought's affecting Texas wine. Devon Roming looked at how one local vineyard is trying to protect its crops.
As extreme drought conditions persist,
there's no relief,
leaving much of southeast Texas in need of water.
These young leaves are just getting cooked.
It may seem ironic winemakers at Hack Winery and Vineyard in Santa Fe say they're working to rebound from an abundance of rain which wreaked havoc on this vineyard just a few months ago.
Now I'm trying to figure out ways of getting moisture into the soil.
This after Hack co-owner Kyle Johnston says the entire 3-acre vineyard had to be replanted, costing them nearly $21,000.
It's hard when you see that sort of investment all of a sudden at risk.
As the vineyard struggles to grow back.
So this is just one of those unique years where what would typically drive your decisions kind of go out the window, and you're just trying to make sure that you get quality fruit that you can make premium Texas wine with.
With major profit at stake.
We're definitely seeing the effects of the heat on our concert attendance, on our private event bookings, on the health of our vineyard. And so all those things do add up and do affect the bottom line.
Knowing a delayed harvest of this year's grapes could make things that much sweeter in the end.
And that's what's unique about wine, is that it reminds us of like the time and place, right? The vintage. So we can think back to that 2023 vintage and be like, oh yeah, that year was tough.
In Santa Fe, Devon Roming, KHOU 11 News.
An 82-year-old swimmer has us rethinking our aging goals. She's making waves locally and nationally. Ugochi Aloka introduced us.
I mean, there was always the rocking chair or just baking cookies or something.
Well, she definitely isn't doing much of that. Instead, she's here a lot. Believe it or not, Diet Sauer is 82.
In the water, I'm 18 again.
This pool is where she feels the most free.
My 10-year-old self is just whoopee-doo, just so happy.
Happy now, but at one point, she was depressed and overweight.
If people would evaluate their life and see if they're living the life they really want.
She decided to give up drugs, alcohol, and junk food at age 38.
You cannot be a senior athlete and not have to overcome things.
Diet didn't know how to swim, but went for it anyway, eventually losing 100 pounds.
That coach that changed my life signed me up for a competition 3 months after she started teaching me to swim.
The rest is literally history. She went on to win all of these swimming medals, including 11 gold medals this summer at a competition in San Antonio and 6 more in Pittsburgh at the National Senior Olympics.
I loved sports when I was a kid, but women weren't allowed. We didn't have organized sports for women when I was young.
Now look at her. 24 years of doing different speed, endurance, and swimming workouts 6 days a week for 2.5 hours each day.
I get up at 4:15. I'm in the pool by 5:15. And I meet a group of dedicated people like myself.
She only wished she started swimming sooner.
I never envisioned my senior years to have anything in it like this. This is just crazy.
More like incredible, and when she's not competing, she's teaching life-saving water techniques.
The first person I ever taught, she showed up like I did on a first day for a team. She couldn't swim at all, and she was terrified of the water.
She got over that fear, thanks to Diet, who's encouraging people to move now and feel young like her.
I don't believe in this aging gracefully thing. You have to age fiercely.
Ugochi Iloka, KHOU 11 News.
The fresher the ingredients, the better the meal, right? Well, one Houston restaurant is taking this idea to the next level.
So right here I have Joy Choi, which is more in the bok choy family. I have marigolds growing up there.
It's a garden chef Rufi Suleiman is proud to show off right in the middle of the lobby of Hilton Americas Houston. He got the idea for a hotel garden about a decade ago.
I was going to use one of the roofs on the top shelf, and my GM suggested, chef, you know, there's something called farm shelf. Have you looked into that yet? And I'm like, you know what, let me check on that.
8 years ago, the hotel made the investment into the hydroponic system that now provides fresh produce for 1,600 bar and grill and the hotel's other dining options.
This is where I actually do the seedlings. I have them here to germinate. Once they germinate, then we move them up to this level, as you can see. And from this point on, it's going to start growing, and it will grow up to the point where you see them over there. And it takes about 3 weeks.
3 weeks until the crop is ready to harvest.
We use the komatsuna in our roasted vegetables, and this one here we use in our most of our salads.
It makes sourcing ingredients for dishes incredibly easy.
I can develop a recipe and get the plant for the recipe, knowing that in 3-4 weeks I can use that particular plant in my food.
Like Genovese basil.
So fragrant, so fresh. So we're gonna do some cooking with this now.
Which Chef Rufi turned into pesto for this pasta dish, and then he added a little fresh basil, of course.
That will be tossed with the pasta. This is part of the things that I like to do as a chef, to do something that we can grow here, show it to our guests, get the plants from here and cook with it right away. It can't get any fresher than that.
This is the final dish, and if you want to try it for yourself, it's on the menu here at Hilton Americas. All you have to do is ask for the chicken pesto cavatappi.
You can actually not just grow plants for food, you can grow plants for your drinks.
Like the surprise spritz here with that garden fresh basil. The marigold that's about ready to pick also makes a great addition to drinks, so you can see it in the lobby, then taste it in the restaurant.
It's a conversational piece.
Go to KHOU.com/hidden gems to check out this interactive map of all the gems we've highlighted so far. There are more than 70 museums, green spaces, sites, experiences, and small businesses to explore. Our back-to-school survey results show the teacher shortage is a top concern for parents right now. And while districts are worried about that, they're also struggling to fill bus driver positions. Janelle Bluda checked in with administrators to find out how they're dealing with the issue.
School districts across the country are getting creative, finding unique, sustainable ways to combat one particular problem.
We still have a bus driver shortage.
Bus drivers are one of the biggest challenges.
Throughout the past few years, in hopes of attracting more staff, some Texas districts have switched to shorter weeks, having school only Monday through Thursday. Others, like Alvin ISD,
we have enough buses, it's the drivers that we need,
are offering higher pay.
We have increased the starting rate to $20.50.
And some, like HISD, are giving incentives, a $3,000 sign-on bonus for new drivers. But still, the problem hasn't stopped. So some districts are hoping a little restructuring will help ease the issue. At Lamar CISD this school year, they're switching to a new schedule, staggering school start times to allow for bus drivers to complete more routes. Other districts already made this switch. At Fort Bend ISD, drivers complete 6 routes a day.
Allows the buses and the people to do more, and one thing, it also separates the kids by age group.
And last year, Cy-Fair ISD doubled down on this system, moving from 3 tiers to 4 tiers. Now drivers are running 8 routes each day, saying it helps, but it's not a cure.
I think that requires about 75 fewer bus drivers by doing that. But having said that, we're still 100 bus drivers short.
And if a district is short on drivers on any particular day, Alvin, Cy-Fair, and Fort Bend ISDs all have the same fix.
A lot of times our mechanics drive, anyone with a CDL license drives.
We have mechanics, even our transportation director has to drive a bus some days.
Office staff and shop people and our cover drivers and trainers.
Each district doing what they can to keep the wheels on the bus going round and round.
It's just the challenges right now with the work shortages out there in all fields.
In Houston, Janelle Blittig, KHOU 11 News.
Tell us what you're focused on in this new school year by taking our back to school survey. It only takes a few minutes to fill out, and accessing it is super easy. Text the word school to 713-526-1111 and we'll send you the link back. Friday Night Lights return this week, but student athletes are battling more than just their opponents. Victor Jacobo found out what school districts are doing to keep student athletes and fans safe in triple-digit heat.
We all know the phrase, clear eyes, full heart, can't lose. But with triple-digit heat still impacting our region, doctors want student athletes taken to the field for Friday Night Lights to add some heat-related tips to their game plan. Several school districts are delaying the start times of football games due to the heat. That includes Houston ISD, Conroe ISD, Katy ISD, and others. With triple-digit heat continuing in our region, doctors want student athletes to be mindful of signals that the heat may be too much.
A little bit dizzy, lightheaded, or even a bit of chest pain or palpitations. If they're just not feeling right, that's probably a sign of some sort of heat illness.
Doctors with UT Health also say hydration every 15 minutes during physical activity is important for student athletes, as well as sweat-wicking clothing because it helps keep their bodies cool. But student athletes aren't the only ones spending time in the heat. Fans also should take steps to be safe, including being mindful of what they're consuming while watching the game.
Sugary drinks, fruit juices, as well as, of course, alcohol and beverages that have caffeine in them or sports drinks, those will kind of dehydrate you. So you want to make sure that you're hydrated.
Doctors also recommend you find a shaded area to help you cool off, as well as bringing along a personal fan. Be sure to keep all those tips in mind if you're headed out for Friday Night Lights tonight and through the season. Reporting in Katy, Victor Jacobo, KHOU 11 News.
Only the best and brightest can take a trip to the International Space Station, and in a matter of weeks, Houston native Laurel O'Hara and the Expedition 70 station crew will head to the ISS from Central Asia. Kimberly Davis chatted with O'Hara about how she's preparing for liftoff.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
I kind of forget that I'm actually going to space, and then every now and then it'll just hit me that our launch is in a couple weeks.
Houston native Laurel O'Hara is preparing for liftoff. In a matter of weeks, she and the Expedition 70 station crew will be headed to the International Space Station from Central Asia. She's been training for this for 2 years.
Doing a lot of physical training to prepare my body just to be in space, to hopefully get to do some spacewalks, and to be as strong as I can for the mission.
This will be O'Hara's first space flight after she was selected as part of the 2017 NASA astronaut class. And of course, being from Space City, she's wanted to be an astronaut since she was a little kid.
Growing up, I always wanted to be an explorer, and having that early exposure to NASA at NASA Johnson Space Center, from an early age, I latched onto the idea of being an astronaut.
According to NASA, as of March of this year, 72 women have gone to space. When asked about advice for future female astronauts, O'Hara had this to say.
Do things that scare you. All of those new experiences help to broaden your horizon and help you learn both who you are and learn about the world.
Watch more of that interview or check out more of our NASA coverage at khou.com/space. Hope that helped you catch up on this past week and you're ready for the next one. Remember, you can tune into KHOU 11 on air, online via YouTube and khou.com, as well as by using our KHOU 11 Plus app on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Have a great week.